Hello, friends. Welcome to this episode on Nippon India Balance Advantage Fund. Today, we have with us Ashutosh Bhargava, Fund Manager and Head Research at Nippon India Mutual Fund. Ashutosh has over 14 years of experience in equity research. Welcome, Ashutosh.
Thanks, Nishant. Thanks for having me.
Ashutosh, I'll start my question with the state of Indian economy. So
Right.
India is moving towards normalcy, and how will this impact Indian economy?
Nishant, to be honest, everyone is surprised. We are also surprised by the pace of economic recovery, particularly the data in the last 4 to 6 weeks have significantly surprised across the board. So there is double-digit power consumption demand. There is double-digit railway freight demand. There is recovery in cement sales, auto sales. So there is a broad-based improvement in consumption, and in some of the services-related indicators also we are seeing very significant recovery. So after a phase where India was experiencing cut in GDP forecast for FY21, I think we have now probably entered a phase where next subsequent round of revision, and that could be round the corner, could be on the upside. So earnings, we are already seeing that earnings have been revised upwards for the last 3 months. But I think even from the economic growth perspective, the GDP growth estimate would be revised upward whenever the second quarter GDP number comes this month. I think sell-side economist research strategies across the board would take this as an opportunity to revise FY21 growth upwards. An outlook for FY22 remains buoyant because economy would be 100% back to normalcy by then. Whatever limited, lockdown which still persists, I think from if we continue to have uh, positive momentum continue on the COVID cases, that the band we have significantly curbed. I think if that continues by January, the whole economy will be completely opened up, and it could not have come at the opportune time, this decline in COVID cases, because it has just happened before the start of the long festive and wedding season. So it's all coincided, and thankfully, a lot of things are looking good.
So, do you see any chances of lockdown phase two?
It's difficult to say. If you look at Europe, yes, there has been a second wave, but in India, we had a very long first wave, and it was all Broadway. Initially started with few urban centers, and then it became a pan-India concern. So it's difficult to say, that on a pan-India basis, we will see the second wave, which is as strong as the first wave. But what I understand is that we, even if there is a second wave, the lockdown of that intensity may not happen. The health infrastructure is much better. We understand how to tackle the COVID cases from health response perspective. So I think even if the second wave comes, I don't foresee lockdown happening in India. If at all, there could be state specific short term some kind of lockdown. But bias remains that there will be more opening up of the economy that we would see in coming weeks to months, rather than going back to the lockdown.
Okay. So, Ashutosh, Sensex has now come back to pre-COVID level of 40,000 points.
Yeah,
Speed of several factors like Indo-China border issue, rising COVID-19 cases,
yeah.
economy, US election. So how do you read this recovery?
See, market is always a forward-looking element. So it all started from April, where there was significant monetary and fiscal response by global policymakers. So initial jump from mid-March or end March kind of bottom that we have seen. And by the way, this is the sharpest recovery in markets that world has ever seen. Uh, is mainly attributed to very very benign global liquidity situation. And India has also benefited. India is actually one of the best performing markets in the last 6 months. And there is very high correlation at present between Indian market and global market. So yes, there has been concerns related to continued spread of COVID cases in India, some kind of border dispute that you have pinpointed, or even our policy response on a relative basis is weaker as compared to some of the Western counterparts. But owing to this benign global liquidity and very high correlation between our market, even at a sectoral level, with that high correlation we have observed, we have seen very sharp recovery in our market also. And now this, while markets have recovered, you are seeing a follow-up of fundamentals and very sharp follow-up of fundamentals, and that makes this whole recovery relatively more sustainable. Had it been the situation where this fundamental catch-up wouldn't have happened, then we would have been more worried about that markets have actually run ahead of themselves. But thanks to this kind of sharp recovery, uh, we are comfortable that initially it was bad news but good prices. But now you probably have a reasonable prices, not as attractive prices as you had 6 months ago, but you have a very good news phase right at this point of time. So things are looking pretty balanced from near to medium term perspective.
Okay, so are we heading towards broad-based recovery?
So historically, what we have seen whenever there is a recovery or the breadth of recovery in economic data improves. Last 2 3 years, what we were experiencing that economic recovery in general was weak and was concentrated to 2 3 factors. Urban consumption was actually weak even last year. Now what we are seeing that rural was doing well. Now urban indicators are doing well. Services started to do well. Infrastructure side, we are seeing many supply side indicators turning positive. Exports have been positive. GST collection, as you know, has already turned positive for the last 2 months. So I think there's a broad-based recovery. More and more data points are joining in terms of turning positive in terms of YOY growth rate. So historically, whenever you see the breadth of economic data improving, there is a broadening in terms of market participation also. So till now, what we have seen, markets have rallied on the back of global defensive or certain few large liquid names. But now, for the last 2 3 months, what we are experiencing, the rotation happening in the market. Some of the cyclical oriented sectors like financial, cement, steel, and these kind of sectors are now actually participating, not only participating but outperforming. So I think there is a broadening of the overall market at a sector level, which we are seeing, and also from a market size perspective. Now, mid cap and small caps are going neck to neck with the large cap. And my personal view is that from 12 18 months perspective, probably broader market may outperform the large cap universe.
So Ashutosh, talking about balance advantage funds. So the category has gained immense popularity among investors and advisors. So what are the key reasons for this, according to you?
I think there was a need for a category like this because, as you would know, asset allocation explains a significant part of the superior return over and above the market return or the risk-free return that an investor earns. And it's not an easy thing to do yourself because it requires a systematic, disciplined approach. And many a times, individual investors or advisors were finding it difficult to do it on their own. So you are getting these solution, which are rule-based, systematic solution, and it provides you a very important thing, which is diversification in terms of asset classes. So I think diversification of asset classes, along with rightful allocation in the right asset class at the right time. I think this combination, um, um, which is based on objective models rather than subjective views, I think this is what has caught investors' fancy. And risk-adjusted return, or what I call volatility-adjusted returns of this kind of product, is very attractive for conservative investors or new investors. And this has become a core of many people's overall portfolio allocation. So that's probably there was a need, and industry has addressed that need, and therefore this category has picked up significantly.
Okay. So Ashutosh, but many distributors believe that asset allocation is the prerogative of MFDs.
So there is no two ways. There would be it's one portion or one section of the advisors who are experienced, who have seen these cycles. They would be able to do rightful allocation themselves. Many advisors whom we interact, they also have their own rule-based systematic approach. They may not have as sophisticated models like various AMCs have, but they also have rule-based approach. That's how they do asset allocation for their clients. So I think there would be some advisor who would do it themselves, but as we have seen, while buy low and sell high, that's what we say is easier said than done. To be honest, in practice, biases and sentiment, overpowers the rationality. So to kind of overcome that, these models and different kind of asset allocation or balance advantage fund model which are available do this service on a systematic rule based basis, and uh, I would say 80-90% of the advisor would find it useful to take the signals from these asset allocation models rather than doing themselves. A handful of bright advisors, senior advisors would probably do it slightly better than what models can do. But for majority people, I think this is actually a very very useful tool to get the signals from.
Okay. So Ashutosh, Nippon India Balance Advantage Fund has outperformed TRI benchmark over 5 and 7 years. So we would like to understand what are the three things that have contributed to this performance.
Uh, so first of all, I would like to clarify. I mean, this fund is actually 2.5 year old. This 5 and 7 year performance is visible to you because it has we have converted one other fund, which was a pure equity diversified fund, into a balance advantage. Having said that, even on a 2.5 year basis, this has outperformed the Nifty or Sensex benchmark, which have done much better than the broader market. Two, three reasons. One is obviously since 2018, there has been a lot of volatility in the market. Market is not, has not been a secular one-way kind of market. And in this kind of market, a balanced approach which looks at both debt and equity obviously would have done better job versus a pure equity product. And this is exactly what Balance Advantage, Nippon Balance Advantage Fund has delivered. That at the right time with minimal standard deviation volatility, it has continued to deliver in bad times in particularly, but even good times have participated in the rally. So point to point, 2.5%, both on the absolute basis and more importantly on the risk adjusted basis. Performance is pretty superior. So in that sense, yes, the model has served us well, and obviously whatever we have decided in terms of two or three key rules, as you asked, so we run it like more like a large cap oriented scheme, which has worked well in the last 2.5 years. We look at it as a more of a balanced kind of approach where we combine both growth and value as a discipline and make a portfolio. And obviously, even on the fixed income side, which is the other part of the portfolio, we have run it more like a conservative, low duration, high quality credit product. So all this combination has helped us in the last 2.5 years. And the journey continues. We keep learning, keep refining our process. But so far, so good.
So can you take us through the fund management strategy for this fund?
Yeah. So first on the fixed income side, as I said, we generally take 85% or above that we've decided. 85% has to be in AAA kind of securities. Duration, the blended duration on the credit side, we want to keep it a 3 year or below because we don't want to take either a credit risk or a duration risk in this portfolio. On the equity side, we follow few rules. We make it a large cap oriented, balanced, liquid portfolio where we take care of sector allocation. We don't take a lot of deviation in terms of sectors. We respect individual security concentration limits. So all the good principle when it comes to having a good conservative product, we follow all those approaches. And there is an overlay of a strong model which we can discuss. That obviously guides the asset allocation. But beyond that, it's been managed from the core equity perspective. It's been managed by Manish Gunwani, who's a CIO, who has significant experience of running this category, probably the highest experience in the industry of running this kind of product. And on the fixed income side, also we have a very senior fund manager looking at it. So I think a combination of senior fund managers and a very, very strong framework to run this fund. I think that is the whole core strategy, and we are pretty confident about the success of this proposition.
It's like Virat and Bumrah playing for the same team.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we try to have best of all kind of approach for this fund. Yes.
So you have mentioned about the formula, the underlying formula.
Yes.
So can you elaborate on that?
Yeah. So every asset allocation strategy which you look at in market, everyone is different. Some would be more aggressive, more dynamic. Some would be more relatively more conservative, and ours is relatively more conservative approach, where we move equity between 30 to 80% only, rather than between 0 to 100. And it is driven by two things. One is the fulcrum of this strategy is valuation. The valuation parameter that we use is 1 year forward P of the large cap universe called MSCI India universe, where the data is available for more than 25 years. So we look at what is the 1 year forward P of MSCI India universe, and we divide into 5 buckets from expensive, above average valuation, below average valuation, and cheap valuation. So depending upon where we are, and it's a monthly rebalancing approach. At the end of the month, when we rebalance, we realize wherever we are in terms of that valuation band, we have that allocation. For higher valuation, obviously lower equity allocation, and for cheaper valuation, we move higher in terms of equity weight. Over and above, while we realize that valuations are critical, from the very perspective that time to time markets have a tendency to overshoot and undershoot for a longer period versus the long-term valuation averages, we also imply a concept of momentum. So it's a mix of a technical factor called momentum and a fundamental factor called valuation. In momentum, we look at short and medium-term trends based on a certain proprietary moving averages that we look at. And at the time of rebalancing, we look at where the valuation is for that particular month and what our momentum signal is indicating in terms of whether market is upward trending or is in a neutral category or there is a downward trend in the market. And based on that, we decide net equity allocation for the next 1 month. Over and above, we also ensure that whatever we have in our portfolio, and as I explained, it's mainly so 68% of our fund is as at present is in large cap, and rest of it is in mostly in the high quality liquid mid cap names. In most of these stocks, we have futures which are available. When we hedge the portfolio, depending upon what net equity allocation rate we are getting, because it's a balance advantage fund. The advantage is you can go below 65% and it will still remain an equity scheme. And how you can do that? By having an hedges in the form of shorting the futures. Now, the gap, which is the between the gross equity allocation and net equity allocation, which we express through hedges, generally we hedge through the individual stocks, and that gives us perfect hedge. Rather than shorting the market, whatever is there in the portfolio, we hedge it in the same proportion with the same security. It gives us the perfect hedge, and at the same time, it also keeps the overall net equity, what SEBI allows us, that gross exposure is counted as if you are, the total gross equity portion, and if you're shorting rather than individual security that you own, if you're shorting or hedging through index of your gross exposure. So we don't increase the gross exposure, and we focus on only on the individual security short. That gives us the perfect hedge, and it also keeps our fixed income portfolio intact. So there's no disturbance on that part because gross equity exposure always remain well contained about around 65 to 70% only. So this is the broad approach, and as I said, security concentration. And one last thing is for financial, which is the largest weight in the index, we don't deviate more than 5% vis-a-vis the benchmark. So that also we keep in mind because in the last sector, we don't want to take very active divergence vis-a-vis the benchmark. So I think liquidity, sector concentration, stock concentration, perfect hedge, all these things and a very good model, which is a combination of fundamental and technical, makes it a good strategy from a medium to long-term perspective.
So what is the current equity and debt allocation in the fund?
We are at around 47% in this for the month of November. And rest is either in the form of arbitrage, like 18-19% we are short, and rest is in fixed income. This being a very critical month, today there is an US election. So this month, momentum signals are positive, but probably market has run slightly ahead of itself. So valuation indicators are suggesting that we should keep slightly lower net equity allocation, and that's why our allocation is around 47%, slightly below 50, which is the kind of average for the last 8-9 months that we have seen. So slightly below average.
Okay, considering the current market environment, how correlated is equity and debt currently?
In Indian context, there is not much correlation, to be honest, because the drivers and the investors are different. Unlike the West, where there are same kind of investor who are investing in both equity and fixed income. Here, there are different drivers. Fixed income has done very well in the last 18 months. There has been sharp decline in interest rate. And now what we are experiencing is that credit market is having better returns versus a G-Sec market or money market, because with the economic recovery, with surplus liquidity, uh, the credit yields are coming down, while the money market rates and G-Sec yields remain more or less at a stable level. From equity market perspective, with the better earning tailwinds, obviously from 12 to 18-month perspective, hopefully bulk of the returns from this particular product would come from the equity side, unlike the last 12, 18 months where that had a very significant role to play in terms of providing the returns as well as the safety. But now I think it's a time where hopefully the model would express itself, and equity would also work in our favor, and we would be able to deliver superior risk adjusted return like we have in the last 2.5.
Okay. So, Ashutosh, how this fund is different from other balance advantage funds?
To be honest, every fund is different. Every philosophy approach is different. I don't think there are funds which look at a combination of 1 year forward P or a mix of momentum and valuation combined. There would be very select approach, such approach. So I think in that sense, more complete. Um, there has been some improvement which we have done in the model. So our tolerance for valuations or higher valuation has gone up. So some tweaking has been done to the core model where we, because world is awash with liquidity and interest rates are negative, we think that valuations mean multiple may not come down to levels that we are used to from a historical perspective. So we have done some tweaking. We have increased the valuation band, increased our tolerance for higher valuation. Given that there are very sharp movement in the market, we have also tweaked our momentum indicators and made it more short term in nature rather than more elongated moving average signal that we used to get. So we have done some changes, but at the core, I think the proposition remains the same. That it's a combination of a fundamental and technical mix, and pro-cyclical and anti-cyclical kind of approach that is valuation and momentum. So it make it a very interesting combination. And as I said, then there are other overlay of the liquidity and the way we hedge our portfolio makes it different from others. And as I said, at time to time, one strategy would work better than the other. But as a category as a whole, from 3-5 year perspective, I think many of such models should be able to deliver good risk adjusted return, and we are confident that our model will also be able to do that.
Okay. So, Ashutosh, why do you think advisors should recommend this scheme to their clients?
I think we have observed a lot of volatility in the last 1 to 2 years, right? And a lot of new investor had come in the market, listening to these ads like mutual fund sahi and all. So now we need to do hand holding of our new investors, and there are so many of them. Investors who have not seen the whole cycle, complete cycle, may not be able to stomach this kind of volatility that we are used to. I mean, look at this calendar year itself, the kind of volatility we've seen. Balance advantage fund would be appropriate for these kind of investors which are new. So, and they have not seen a cycle or two. So the whole experience of volatility for them may not be there. So to handhold them, to ensure that they are there for a longer period in the equity market, this could be the starting point for a lot of new investors. And you have a category of investors, maybe the old age investors or investors who are conservative in nature. I think the way I define this category is that return is a function of stress you take, and return per unit of stress that you take is actually pretty superior in this kind of fund. So if you believe that your definition is this return per unit of stress that you take, in that sense, I think this should be the portfolio. This cannot be the alternative of a pure equity product or a pure fixed income product. This lies somewhere in between, both in terms of return profile and risk profile. But hopefully, with the with if market remain volatile, these kind of funds may do significantly better than both equity and debt, and take advantage of market gyration, which generally people are afraid of. This strategy would take them in debt to their advantage. So that's the hope, that's the belief, and I think for certain kind of investor, this could be a core part of the portfolio. And over and above, they can have various kind of diversified scheme depending upon their experience in the market or their risk appetite. So I think that can be the core part of the portfolio, which is more stable in nature.
Okay, so one last question, Ashutosh. So, which is the best way to invest in BAF, lump sum or staggered manner? And what should be the ideal allocation in one's portfolio?
To be honest, there is no right way to approach, because asset allocation we are doing on a monthly basis. So if you come as a lump sum, we will try to do the rightful allocation. Or if you come as a SIP and you want to time it, at the end of the day, we are any which ways doing that job for you. So there is no right or wrong answer. Depending upon anyone's choice, one can come either lump sum or it doesn't matter in this particular kind of. In terms of allocation, I think you need some anchoring in your portfolio. And unfortunately, fixed income now, from a going concern basis, I think may not give you a lot of return. So because interest rates are low, I mean likely to remain at lower level. In that kind of scenario, you need some risk, but not significant risk. And in that case, if you are looking for an anchor in your overall asset allocation, this could be that anchor fund in your portfolio. And around that, depending upon who you are, where you stand in terms of your risk profile, age profile, you can have other combination. Like you can either, if you want more risk, you can add small caps, certain thematic funds, or you can be in a some kind of fixed income or large cap fund if you have low risk appetite. But the core of your overall portfolio mix, this could be the fulcrum around which you can have entire asset allocation done. So this could be useful for all kind of investors. But as I said, particularly for new investors, it's a kind of a duty that we don't kind of introduce them to more volatile kind of category. I think this is how they should uh, go ahead and start their investing journey. So in Hindi we says you need that sanskar for everything. I think to get that equity sanskar, I think this is how you should start. Get some learning and then approach equity as a subject for longer term. Once you have spent few times in this kind of some time in this kind of strategy. So start with it and then move forward.
So, Balance Advantage Fund gives equity sanskar to investors.
Yes, so that you don't get overly perturbed and not get exposed to the cruel, volatile nature of the market, which challenges everyone's belief, even the experienced investors. So I think to get that initial sanskar, I think this is a good starting point and stepping stone, in my mind.
Thank you so much, Ashutosh. So, with that, we have come to an end to this interesting session. Thank you,
Thank you.
Ashutosh, for being with us. It was wonderful talking to you, Ashutosh.
Thanks, Nishant. Our pleasure, and thank you very much.